Hey everybody, my name is Nick Alexander. Today we are here with Stephen Smart from Australia. He is going to go into detail as to how he processes and shapes and also polishes Boulder Opal. So we're going to go over the process and leave it up to him.
Cool, thank you. G'day guys, Steve here, and I've been using this Ray Foster machine, which is actually a dental lathe to dry sand Boulder Opal and Lightning Ridge Opal. And so I just want to show you the steps that we go through to get up to a pre-polish on the Ray Foster machine.
Let's get into it. All right, so what kind of machine do we have here today?
So this is a Ray Foster AG05. It's a variable speed dental lathe. It's got the light built into the hood there, and it goes up to 26,000 RPM. The neat thing about this machine is the spindle opens up to release the tool just with the movement of this lever. So you can go from 26,000 RPM to stopped, change the tool over, and then it's back up to speed working again. So that's really cool. One thing we do have to be very mindful of is when we're cutting Boulder Opal and Lightning Ridge Opal, that the dust we're making is silica dust, which is hazardous, and you do need a proper vacuum system. It goes through this grill here, off to a hose, and then you do actually have to have a proper hazardous dust vacuum hooked up to this machine for dry sanding. But yeah, that's it. We're just using these tools that we can make up with either diamond or silicon carbide grits to finish the surface.
So is that paper?
Yeah, so the diamond's on a cloth. So this is a tool that we're going to use to do the last little bit of finishing the surface ready for conditioning, which is silicon carbide, just a normal wet and dry paper, but you've got to have the right brand. And today we're going to be using 240 and then 600 grit to get up to our pre-polish stage.
Very nice.
All right, let's go.
All right.
Okay, so here we've got a piece of Lightning Ridge crystal opal, and it's all convex surfaces, so you could probably cut this on a pixie wheel or something, but just going to show you cutting on the Ray Foster machine. So I've just got the diamond disc in there at the moment, and we're just going to go around the edge and just tidy up the preformed shape. Generates a lot of heat because we're sanding dry, but as long as you're not holding the stone in one position for too long, there's not a lot of heat that's generated.
How much give do you have in that sponge behind the pad?
Yeah, we can just sort of press into it to get it to go around the convex shapes that you're making, and you can also use thicker or thinner sponges just to control how much give the pad has that you want to use at that time. So if you're wanting to get right in there and get a specific little spot, you just use a really thin pad. And if you're trying to do something which is a nice cabochon, we're just trying to get the edges to flow over nicely, then you use a thicker sponge. There's not a lot of pressure going there at all. Very light. So you can see there's a few sand spots there. I might just work on this piece a little bit and then come back when it's clean, and we'll show you the 240 grit sandpaper. Okay, so we've just spent a couple of minutes there just tidying up all the sand out of this stone, and you can see there's just a little bit of sand just in the edge there. Might just tidy that up, and then we'll go to the 240 grit sandpaper. So this diamond disc, you can change the shape of the stone to a certain extent using the diamond grit. And once we get into the silicon carbide, we're really just conditioning the around the sides, and then over the top with the 240 grit sandpaper, and we'll see what the finish looks like. See the white line that the dust makes across the surface of the stone. That's a really good indicator on where the peaks and troughs are in the surface of the stone. So when you have a nice straight line running across, you know you've got a nice smooth surface going there. You should be able to see just a little bit of a shine starting to come on with the 240 grit sandpaper. Okay, so this is our 240 grit finish. See, there's just a little bit of a sheen starting up there. So now we can go into the 600. And this is the pre-polish stage. So once we've gone around here, we can just go straight over to whatever system you normally use for polishing your opal, and the stone will be finished on the top anyway. Then I always do the backs last. So you can see that the rubber backing that we've got on this one is a little bit thicker, and that gives it just a bit more give. So when we're trying to follow this convex shape over, it just wraps around that shape a bit nicer. It's starting to look pretty good. You can check the surface of the stone just by looking at the reflection of the light off the surface, and we should be ready to polish. Okay, so this is 600 grit finish. You can see all the shoulders of that cabochon are all nicely rounded off, and that is ready to polish. Okay, so now we're going to have a look at a piece of Boulder opal. This isn't a fantastic piece actually. There's, you know, ironstone inclusions along this edge and some cracks, but you can see it's concave. So that's what most people will be struggling with, and that's what I want to show you, how this Ray Foster machine makes it pretty easy. So we're back to the diamond grid, and we're just going to go around the outside of the stone, tidy up the edges. Whenever the stone is in contact with the disc, you want it to be moving. You don't ever want to hold it in one spot for very long. So once again, this diamond disc is able to change the shape of the surface of the stone. So we're trying to get a nice smooth flow, even out those little concave areas, so it's easier to get down into them with the silicon carbide. So that's the finish with the 400 grit diamond disc. Then we'll move over to the 240 grit sandpaper. Going around the outside edge again. 240 grit sandpaper starts to give the ironstone a nice little bit of sheen, so it's not quite a polish, but it's definitely heading towards being a finished surface. And you can tell just by looking at the reflection of the light on the surface of the opal, if you got all the scratches out from your previous grinder stage. I'm just taking a little bit of a bevel from the side going up towards the top, and then when we do the top we're going to come down from the top over to the side to get that rounded radius on the corners. So if you've got a really tight little concave area, you can just use a smaller disc, and that makes it easier to get into a really tight little spot. But these 1-inch discs are doing the job okay on this particular piece. So the process that I'm doing, I sort of start in the middle of the stone, and then I do another run a little bit closer to the edge, and then just keep going until I'm actually going over the edge. Then I'll turn around, reorientate the stone, and start in the middle again and work back out towards the edge. That's starting to look pretty good for a 240 grit finish. I'll just check it with a loop and then we'll do the 600. Okay, so we've just checked the stone with this loop, and I can just see a tiny little spot just in the bottom of this concave area that we haven't quite got to. So I'm just going to change out the 1-inch disc and put just a slightly smaller one on, and that'll help us get down into that the center of that concave. So you can see I'm trying to get back down into that area from all different orientations. I'm not just going in the one direction. If you work a stone in the one orientation too many times, you'll end up actually putting more ridges in there than you're taking out. So it's important just to keep the stone moving around to get down into those tight little areas. Alright, that looks pretty good now. Okay, so that's the 240 finish, and we'll swap this out now for the 600. And once again, just going around the outside. The ironstone with the 600 grit sandpaper, it starts to get a real nice shine to it. So yeah, I mean, all the stones that I finish, I just take the 600 grit on the ironstone, and that's pretty much good enough. You can take it further if you want, of course. One more time to make sure we've got everything out from the 240 grit stage, and then we'll be ready for a polish.
this is Nick here, and we are going to give it a shot at polishing this Boulder Opal.